Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trading the Close. My name is Gareth Soloway here with VerifiedInvesting.com. All right, so we're going to talk some technicals here on the markets, what's going on today, because we've seen a nice little rollover in the S&P late in the day, follow through from yesterday's rollover, and you got to wonder, is the market starting to struggle around that key cycle date? We'll find out over the next week or so if a top is being put in. All right, couple things to go over. We've seen the high flyers starting to struggle again. Yesterday, names like Kava, UAL, APP, all of these stocks opened higher, reversed sharply, and continuing to sell today in general. And again, those are things that you watch for if you're a technician to see that, again, valuation may be starting to matter again. Bitcoin continues to struggle, which again is a risk-on asset, so that's interesting as well as the market again rolls over. All right, let's take a look at the data here on the day. We can see very, very clearly here that we have red across the board. Dow down 167 points, NASDAQ down 75, and the S&P is down about 20. Now, let's be clear. None of these numbers are massive. These are small drops. Again, part of it is light volume. Again, we're waiting on the CPI data tomorrow, and then on Thursday, the PPI data. So consumer price inflation or index and producer price index. And then in addition, next week, we have the Federal Reserve meeting where they're likely going to cut 25 basis points. So you're not going to get the big volume. But again, it's the reversal in key names. Like NVIDIA just keeps going lower, and there's a head and shoulders pattern on that chart. So that's something we have to pay attention to as well. All right, oil today flat, up 23 cents. Gold surprisingly strong. Now, what's interesting about gold is up about $31 today, pushing above a little bit of a bear flag area, which is changing the probabilities. We'll go over that in a second. But what's interesting is the other metals, silver, and the rest of the group, which are more industrial, they are not getting a rally. What is that telling us? It's telling us that money is getting nervous and it's exiting some of the stock market, maybe going into the safety of gold, but obviously it's not going towards the industrial metals in that nickel is down, palladium and platinum are flat to positive, but really it's gold that's having the big move today. Bitcoin today down again, although it's off of its lows. It was trading below $95 per coin. So again, that has come in pretty significantly, but also has bounced off of the lows today. Here's your heat map. You can see NVIDIA down another 3% today. I want to look at that chart with you guys because it is important. And then look at this electronic technology zone. A lot of red in here. At least Apple's eking out a little bit of a gain. I gave you guys yesterday a key level to watch. I believe it's around 252 to 253. If we get up to that on Apple, that's where the major resistance is going to be. But lots of red here. Here's Microsoft. Google is the one standout / Alphabet because they came up with some super chip. And the super chip, again, is supposedly faster than the best supercomputer out there. But again, that stock is getting a rally. If it wasn't for that, this market would probably be down a lot more. Now, if you go over to the financials, mix over here, but a fair amount of red. Healthcare, same kind of deal, a little bit of a mix. But again, it's in the big technology names that it's struggling today. All right. Let's go over to the computer and take a look here as we get over here. Here's your intraday S&P 500. Notice again, this was yesterday, right? So this was Monday. We had that sell-off early in the day right here, a sideways chop, and then end of day selling. Today, we kind of went sideways, and then it rolled over, and just not enough buyers here. All right, and again, we're closing right at the lows of the day. We got about 1 minute left to go. Markets are catching a little bit of a bid. Now, if we flip over to the daily chart, this is, again, a daily trend line I've been watching very closely. You hammered on it over and over again, broke below it, hammered from the underbelly, and then again, look at this. We didn't have it. The markets did not, as of now, even have the energy to get back to that line to get rejected again and are now rolling over. Granted, so far it's a very mellow rollover, but you got to wonder, because of these big names, is something bigger at work? So if we look at this, right? So here's Kava. Now, Kava is kind of a fast casual restaurant. It's all the craze in so many places. But look, reversal candle on earnings, bear flag, and look at the last 2 days. Look at that move to the downside. Palantir, reversal candle yesterday. It was up early and it couldn't hold those gains. These are the things that we pay attention to as technicians to start to signal that reality may be setting back in on the market. Here's your APP. Again, crazy app love and move. I think this is was up 550% from August. So 4 months, 550% move. It finally broke down yesterday, continuing to sell. On Friday, this hit about $420. It's currently trading at $320. I mean, think about that, $100 drop on that stock, almost 20, basically 20+% drop in just a little bit of time. All right, take a look at this, guys. Here's a great chart on the on NVIDIA. Now, let me, in fact, go over to the big board because I do want to cover this here. I think it's that important of a chart. Now, remember, NVIDIA led the markets all year long until their last earnings. And all of a sudden, after their last earnings, it started to struggle. And even when the rest of the market's been going up, NVIDIA's been coming back down. Now, if we look at this, we can see very clearly another beautiful trend line right here, here, and here. And it touched right there, it broke, and then look, classic retrace, where it broke down, retraced, got rejected, and again, in general, this should go lower to the downside here. Now, one other thing we got to pay attention to is, do you guys see the pattern here? I think I've shown this to you guys before, but you have a shoulder, head, and shoulder pattern formation. So again, that's another bearish signal on NVIDIA, plus the breakdown of this trend line. Now, granted, the head and shoulders has not broken and triggered yet. The trigger is when the neckline, or what I call armpit to armpit, right here, you have to connect it to this low here. When that breaks right here, so if we break that line right around 132, 130, 150, you can actually take a measured move from the high down to this line. You take that distance and you can map it out. And I think it's right around the 112, 115 area as a downside target, maybe closer to 116. But either way, the point being is that multiple negative signals are emerging on the semis. And by the way, there's a massive head and shoulders on the SMH, which is also concerning. Now, listen, we could all say, hey, who cares about the semis? But you can't say that, and I'll tell you why. Number one, that carried the market to the upside, so you're going to need mega players to carry the market the rest of the way if it's not going to roll over with the semis. In addition, the old adage from my early Wall Street days and even from before my time was, where the semis go, the markets will follow. That's generally what the big traders say, and it's why I'm keeping an eye on the semiconductors so closely. All right, so that was an interesting chart there. We can look at Google here, which is kind of one of the standouts up on that new chip. If you're looking for resistance, I don't see anything on resistance until you get up to double top. In addition, look at this, guys. If we take this trend line and we connect it from this high to this high, it coordinates right at that level. So again, it's not saying that Google has to go up to that level, but if it does, this is where your short level or sell level would be, right around 191.50, give or take. All right, let's look at Bitcoin here. Here's your Bitcoin, guys. You have your upsloping parallel channel. We keep on hammering on this. I'm going to remove this for the time being. I just want you guys to see how this beautiful parallel, high pivot to high pivot, low pivot, kissed it here, pierced it, touched it, touched it. So as long as you hold in here, which is basically 94.50, that was the low of today, this is technically, again, you would favor the upside, right? You'd favor a bounce back to the high end up here, which basically, by the way, gets you to my 107, 108 target right up in this range. If it breaks here, it goes straight down to 191 to 192, 91,000 to 92,000, not 191,000, but right into this level here. And if it, as long as it holds that, you'd still be neutral to maybe slightly bullish. If it breaks that, then down you go. All right, so again, right now, the bias is still net bullish on Bitcoin. I want to be clear on that, guys. Net bullish bias, because it's still holding the technical level of that upsloping parallel. If it breaks that, it's more of a neutral till 91, and then if it breaks that, then the bearish side takes over, no doubt about that. All right, quickly going into gold here, G-O-L-D, the big gold here. You can see, look at this chart. Here's your parallel, bear flag, and you're above it. Now, this doesn't make it bullish, just to be clear. It means that the bearish case has now been damaged to the point where the probabilities are shifting more towards neutral. Now, for it to go bullish, you'd have to negate on a daily closing basis the high of the red portion of this candle. If you ever get a daily close above that, now it's bullish. Now you go boom, right to the upside. Right here, this is more of a 50-50 bullish-bearish kind of equal angle, where us as traders, if you're a true trader, you kind of say, okay, now we have to go back and say, let's wait for the next signal, whether it's a reversal back in, which would take over the bearishness tomorrow on the CPI data, or maybe it's a push up. But either way, us as traders have to be patient, and we have to wait for the next signal before we say, okay, the probabilities strongly favor this side or that side. And that's really letting the charts tell us what the most likely move is, not us telling the charts. Everyone wants to tell a chart or a stock or a commodity or crypto and say, oh, it's got to go up here, or no, it doesn't. Look at the chart. Let the chart tell us. That's how we do well, by listening to the charts. All right, silver today. I mentioned how silver really wasn't doing much today. Look at that. Basically about as flat of a day as you can get. And again, that keeps us in this parallel channel where downside, upside, maybe eventually a breakdown can occur. And then oil, as much as I continue to kind of gripe about oil and its lack of volatility, you know, right now it's just hovering. But again, the lack of volatility, I think, is actually speaking to us quite a bit and telling us that this, again, if it can't rally on what's happening in the Middle East, if it can't rally on China stimulus, what is that telling us about the potential upside or downside in oil? And in general, it probably leads us to believe there's more downside per the charts. Natural gas today hammered on this little upsloping trend line, got to bounce right back up, essentially flat on the day. All right, so to summarize, the markets, again, down today, second day in a row, but not major selling. So again, you don't look at the markets and say, holy cow, look at that down move. What you do is you pull back the covers on the market and you say, wow, these stocks that were the hottest thing, that were going up every single day, that were up hundreds of percentage points, they now are starting to reverse. What is going on here? Is this trying to tell us something, especially as we enter that phase into the cycle period here? All right, we want to see, does the market follow the semis, right? The semis being a big indicator. The next thing to watch tomorrow is going to be that CPI data at 8:30 a.m. Do we see an uptick in inflation? I've seen coffee going up, cocoa going up. Granted, oil's still holding steady, so that may keep it anchored a little bit, but still, you got to wonder if inflation's going to start to pick up again just a little bit and what that's going to do to the Fed. The markets will react to that number tomorrow. I will be here at 9 a.m. to go over it with you guys and all the charts and the trade setups for the day. You guys have a great one as always. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.